Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the School Safety Webinar Series that Joffe Emergency Services provides. We've got a great topic today, lockdown devices, and one of our safety consultant reps, Katelyn Roberts, is going to present the information. So I'm really excited for Katelyn to share this with you. So we're going to get started. Katelyn, turn it over to you.
Hi. Hello, everybody. My name is Katelyn. Like Melinda said, I'm a safety consultant up here in the Northern California division, primarily the Bay Area. I work primarily with schools, some organizations out here, and we work to better their safety protocols and things like that. I'm really excited about this webinar today because I've actually kind of taken on a personal project of learning all about lockdown since it's become incredibly important today in our society. A couple of weeks ago, about 5 weeks ago, I actually did a webinar in this series about movement restrictions. So this is kind of stemming off of that, and this is talking about one little piece, which is actually the lockdown. So for today's program, let's see, let me get the we are going to talk about actually what a lockdown is. It's going to be a quick recap. I'm sure most of you guys have been following us for the safety series, so I don't want to go too deep into it because we already covered this during our movement restriction webinar on September 17th. If you guys didn't have a chance to watch it, it's posted on YouTube now. I would recommend you guys go and watch it. There's tons of information about the 3 different levels of lockdown and things like that. So today we're going to talk about just what a lockdown is, what a hard lockdown is, and then I'm actually going to introduce what a lockdown device is, what they are, how they're beneficial, how you can use them, how you can integrate them into your school, and then we're going to talk about a couple of different models of lockdown devices, the pros and cons. I put some GIFs in here, so if you guys don't know what that is, just stick with us. You'll see it in a little bit. They're really cool. You guys get to see how they work, and then I can also give you information on where to get them and things like that. Just to start off the day here, I'd like to get a poll question. I just want to see kind of who our audience is. I want to see how many of you guys actually joined us for that movement restriction webinar last September. I just want to see how many people it is, so when I talk about lockdowns in just a second, I know how far to actually go in. You'll see it pop up on your screen in just a second. Okay, we'll give it just a couple of minutes so you guys can all finish that up real quick, and then okay, so it looks like, oh, we're actually at about 82% say no. So that's awesome. We're going to talk about lockdowns in just a second, so I'll get you guys caught up on kind of what we talked about in that webinar. So we're going to talk about the evolution of the lockdown. Basically, what is a lockdown? We are talking about an imminent threat that is on campus. Now, we're talking somebody who has potentially a weapon, somebody who has not identified themselves at the front desk or refuses to identify themselves to a teacher or a staff member. Somebody that could be threatening you and your students can also potentially be, we've seen a parent who's in a custody battle with the other one. The other party in this custody battle, and they're not supposed to see the child, and now they're on campus trying to remove the child, and that's not supposed to happen. That's a threat to you and the community there, so you can call a lockdown. Something that I also, just a little side note about lockdowns that I always like to mention is that any of your staff and faculty should feel comfortable calling a lockdown. We have some schools that only like administration members to call lockdowns because they don't want to unnecessarily do it. And in my professional opinion, I don't really agree with that, because say I'm not part of the administration and I see a potential threat, now I have to go through a whole chain of command to even call that lockdown in the first place. So I want to empower my staff and my faculty to call that lockdown if necessary. I'd rather you do it and then have to call it off and it was nothing serious than not do it and have it be something serious in the long haul. That's kind of the thought process on that. Your plan of action when we're talking about a lockdown is you're going to take shelter immediately. So the closest classroom, the closest office. If you're running to classrooms and you're running to offices and they're all locked, you can even go for a bathroom. That's not as ideal, but you can go for a bathroom. If you can, in that particular time, get off campus, do so. Just take shelter immediately wherever you can. You don't want anybody, once the lockdown has been enacted, you don't want anybody coming on or off campus and no in or out of classrooms or offices. You stay in there. Once the door is locked, you stay in there until the lockdown has been released. We like to use the phrase get dark, get quiet, so that basically means I close the door behind me, it's locked. We're going to talk about why locking is such a huge thing of this in just a second. But you want to lock the door, you want to turn off the lights, close the blinds, close the windows, lower the brightness on your cell phones, get quiet, huddle together in a corner, no talking so that you don't identify yourself in the room. The U.S. Department of Education has also kind of modified this passive approach to lockdowns into an active approach, basically meaning that you're going to run and hide. So I'm going to take shelter wherever I can immediately. I'm going to hide, I'm going to get quiet, I'm going to do all that stuff, but if all else fails, you are going to fight if necessary. Basically what that means is if somebody actually gains access to where you guys are hiding, you're going to fight for your life. You don't want to be kind of like a sitting duck, for lack of a better term. Take fire extinguishers, that's my favorite one. You can blast them with a fire extinguisher if they get in there. You can even whack them with a fire extinguisher. You can throw things at them, telephones, computers, desks, anything that will decrease the likelihood of this person causing harm to you or anybody that's in the room. Just a quick side note on this, you guys, there is a questions panel bar on the right-hand side of your screen. So if you guys have any questions throughout the webinar today, please feel free to shoot those over to us and we'll answer them as we go. I know this is a little bit of a quick overview and a quick recap, so I'm not going to go too deep into it because I already covered it. So again, if you guys have any questions or anything, please just shoot them over to us. I'm going to do another poll question. I'm sorry, and I'm throwing these at you. The next poll question that we are going, actually, I'm sorry. The poll question is a little bit later. We'll talk about that one later. Before we talk about that, sorry guys, I'm trying to get the technical side of this to cooperate with me. There we go. I'm actually going to introduce the lockdown device to you guys. I've been mentioning this a lot, and that's what this webinar is all about. So I kind of want to present it to you guys, talk to you about it before we even get into looking at different models. So first things first, what is a lockdown device? Lockdown device is a piece of equipment placed or installed in a classroom, office, or room to ensure quick lockdown of a room from the inside. So when I go to my schools, when I first get a client, I go over there, I want to do what's called an initial assessment. I go through the school, I learn everything about it. Now this year, the reason that this is such a big thing for me is because I noticed that it was almost unanimous by the 3 or 4 new schools that I had when I went out to do my initial assessments. Locking doors is incredibly hard for them because all of the locks are different. Unless your school was built from the ground up within the last year or so, I can almost guarantee that you don't have a uniform locking system. Basically, what I mean by that is we have some doors that only lock with keys. We have some doors that only lock from the outside. We have some doors that only lock from the inside. We have some doors that have turn handles. We have some that have doorknobs. We have some that have panic bars. So when writing a protocol for what to do in a lockdown, you have to take all of this into consideration. You can't just say close the door and lock it, because sometimes people have to go out into the hallway and expose themselves to a dangerous situation, fiddle with their keys to try and lock the door from the outside. That's why I really got into this project about lockdown devices, because I wanted to come up with the quickest, easiest, user-friendly, and safest way for our teachers to lock their doors from the inside. There's many, many, many models out there. If you guys go and do any research on this after today, there's so many models out there. I've kind of condensed it down. I'll give you my criteria in just a minute, but I've condensed it down to about 6 or so that we're going to talk about today. And they all have different pros and cons, and it really just depends on your organization, the needs of your organization, the age group that you have there, to decide which one works best for you guys. Lockdown devices are incredibly beneficial because your main goal during a lockdown is to secure that room from the inside as quickly as possible. Allowing you to lock from the inside decreases your exposure to a dangerous situation. Say the intruder was already in the hallway where your classroom is, and you have to step outside the door, fiddle with your keys, you're nervous, you drop them on the floor, you have to pick them up, fiddle with your keys again, find the key, now actually lock it, and then get back into the classroom. Even if you were to do it as fast as I just said it right now, which is probably about 20 seconds or so, you are exposing yourself to that person. You're also letting them know that when you close that door, there's somebody inside that room. So if you're able to lock it from the inside, it decreases the likelihood of your particular space being targeted. And the really awesome and really cool thing about these devices is that they're all user-friendly. They're made for teachers, they're made for students, they're made for people who have never seen a lockdown device before in their life. So they're really, really user-friendly. Your substitute teachers will be able to use it. Handicapped, children, teachers, everybody. They're really cool. I like them a lot. All right, here's my poll question. How many of you guys have actually heard of a lockdown device before today? I just want to get kind of a survey on who has heard of these before we get into talking about them. Okay. Awesome. So it looks like we're actually at about a 50-50. So half of you guys have heard of them and half of you guys have never heard of them before. That's really awesome. I'm really excited. I'm going to show you the ones that are my personal favorites. So some of you guys who have heard of them, you may have seen these ones before, but bear with me. I've actually gotten these samples out. I've contacted the companies. They've given me their products, so I've played with them. I've gotten them in my hands, and I've kind of seen the pros and the cons of them. Excuse me. These are the 6 models that we're actually going to talk about today. So there's the Night Guard lockdown device, there's the LockBlok, there is the School Safe, the Safe Latch, the LockAide, and the InSlide lockdown. There's a couple in here that have more heavy installation processes and things like that, so we'll talk about that when we talk about each particular device. So to start it off, we are going to talk about the Night Guard. I'm going to use my mouse. You'll see it on the screen moving around so that I can kind of circle what I'm talking about when I talk about it. Just for your guys' information as well, this is how all of the slides are set up. Up in this corner over here where my mouse is, this tells you how the door needs to function throughout the day for this device to work. There's going to be a picture in this section that shows you what the lockdown device looks like, and contact information for the company on the bottom. And then obviously on the left-hand side of the screen we have your pros and your cons. So they all look like this. When we move forward, you'll see. So for this particular one, for the Night Guard lockdown, your door can remain locked or unlocked from the outside at all times during the day. I noticed that a lot of my teachers were really concerned with keeping their doors locked all day long because what if little kids have to go to the restroom, then they come back, then they have to knock on the door, it disturbs classrooms, so they want to leave the doors unlocked. So that's a huge issue for them. This particular device allows them to leave it unlocked or locked throughout the entire day, and it actually just secures the door closed in an emergency. It doesn't actually lock the door, it just secures it closed. The cool thing about this particular model, is it's virtually impenetrable. We'll see a video in just a second. There is a police officer that literally takes a sledgehammer to a door, and he cannot get it open with this lock in place. It's pretty easy use. All you do is you take this red anchor piece and you slide it into the 2 plates. You'll see a video of that in just a second. And it's minimal storage, It comes in this little plastic case right here. You can mount it on the wall by the door, or I've seen people mount them on the desk of the teacher and things like that. So it's minimal storage. It's not a huge device that's going to freak out your kids all the time. And it can be used on any door type. You can use it on a metal door or a wood door. The only really cons that I have with this particular device is that the installation process is fairly lengthy. You have to drill these plates into the door and into the floor. You actually have to drill a hole into the floor right here for your anchor piece to sit in once it goes in that little slot. They will come to you and they will do it for you, and they also put videos on YouTube showing you how to do it so you can do it yourself. But it is just a little bit of a lengthy process when it comes to some schools, and so some schools don't want to do it for, 80 doors that they have. And it requires multiple pieces as well. You have to have both both face plates and your anchor piece. You have to have all three. If you have only two of the three, it's not going to work properly. If you lose this piece right here, if you lose your little anchor piece, then this lockdown device is not going to be beneficial for you. I'm going to move to the next slide. We will see these are the gifts. If you look on the right-hand side of your screen, you can actually see the police officer with the sledgehammer. On the on the left-hand side of your screen is the installation during an emergency. This is all you have to do is you just slide the anchor piece into place. Really, really effective. I recommend you guys watch the videos. On the bottom of the screen, there's the YouTube link to watch it. I would watch them. They're really cool. If you see on this one, this police officer here who has the sledgehammer, there's a gentleman in the back. You can see him through the window here. He's actually videotaping this piece right here, the anchor piece that goes on the bottom of the door, so you can kind of see how it reacts to this police officer hitting it with the sledgehammer. They try all sorts of crazy things. He tries kicking down the door, they try the sledgehammer, they try two men going for the door, and they can't get it open. So it's really, really a tough piece of equipment. Moving along, I'm going to talk about the LockBlok device. So this device is a little bit different from the night guard. The night guard is actually there to ensure that nobody gets into a locked or unlocked door. The LockBlok basically means that your door is going to remain locked from the outside all day long. This particular device just keeps the door ajar just a little bit during the operating hours. So it'll keep your door open just enough to where the lock doesn't click into place. And then if you do have to actually lock the door, you just pull one side of it and close the door from the inside. Again, we'll see a GIF of it in just a second so you kind of understand what I'm talking about. These particular devices are easy to operate. They're quickly employed. You can place these ones out of reach of children, and they're less invasive and scary than having a huge piece of equipment laying around the classroom. I tend to like these ones because a lot of students will mess with a lockdown device, or whatever's in the classroom, really. They'll mess around with it, and you don't really want that with these particular devices because you don't want them to wear down really quickly. So these ones are cool because you can place them at adult level. The only really cons that I have seen to these is they are stuck to the door with sticky adhesive strips, and I have noticed with schools that I've worked with, sticky adhesive strips do not work very well with wood. They fall off, they don't stay very long, you have to constantly replace them. I have seen some places they will aftermarket modify it basically and put a couple of screws here. Whoops, didn't want to go that way, go back. Okay, they will put a couple of screws right here to hold it into place, and that could be a potential a solution for you guys. And then last but not least, the rubber may wear down as well. Constantly, this little rubber piece right here is going to be slammed between the door and the door frame constantly every single day, so that can wear down, and it may reduce the effectiveness of the LockBlok itself. This is how it works. Just give the GIF a second, it'll load. Basically, when the device is engaged, if you look on the left-hand side of your screen, it gives you a picture of how it works. With the device engaged, the door will not completely shut. With the device disengaged, it will allow the door to close and the latch to engage. This is why the door has to stay locked throughout the entire day. There is a YouTube video down here as well. I put all the links down here. I would really recommend that you guys go and take a look at them. They have some awesome information on how their products work and what have you. Moving on to the next one, we're going to talk about the school safe. This is a really cool one. I have used this one in a couple of our schools. This is another one where the door will remain locked throughout the entire day from the outside. This model just keeps the door ajar during the operating hours. These ones are incredibly easy to operate. They are quickly employed again. These ones as well can be placed out of the reach of children. They're less invasive and scary for the children, and they require minimal installation. The same thing for this one goes for the LockBlok. The original model uses a sticky adhesive, which I can tell you from experience with some of our schools, they just won't work. These take a lot of, you'll see in the next GIF, the door closes on them constantly all throughout the day, which releases the adhesive. If you look in this picture right here, you can actually see they modified it aftermarket and just screwed it right into their door frame. So you can do that if you want to do that, and it is still really effective if you do so. I like this device. The only thing is just that adhesive. And the only other thing that I can see as being a con to this is that this particular hinge right here, from being used so often all throughout the day, it might become a little bit loose. It's not the end of the world. These are fairly inexpensive. And they also make these for any door type, doors that swing open, doors that swing closed, doors that swing from the left, and doors that swing from the right. So you can get this for any door type, and they're fairly inexpensive, so if they do break, it's not like a bank breaker to try and get a new one. This is how this particular model works. So see, the door can close and open regularly throughout the day. Once it's engaged, it keeps the door ajar. Then you flip it up to close the door. There's a little rubber piece you can see as well that gets put on the door. I'm going to try and put my mouse right there so you guys can see it right there. And that rubber piece is to basically keep this device from damaging your door, so you don't get like a little groove in there or anything like that. So that piece also has to stick to the door as well. This YouTube attachment down at the bottom, this is actually a news broadcast, so it's not about this particular device itself. They don't have a promotional video, so it's just a news broadcast about it. I'd recommend going to their website, which is on the previous page. You guys can either contact me after, or you can look at the webinar on YouTube later on to see if to get those that information. The next one that we're going to talk about is the safe latch. Again, this is a model where the door remains locked all day from the outside. It just keeps the door ajar during the operating hours. This one, basically, instead of keeping the lock inside the door, it keeps a cover over the door frame. It's pretty easy to operate. There's different devices for different door types. So see, this one is on the inside of a metal door frame. This one on this side will fit around a door frame, and this one actually slides up and down, like so, to uncover the piece where the lock goes into the door frame. This one you actually pull out of the door frame. You'll see this one in just a second. This particular company, Safe Latch, also makes ones for double opening doors. They make ones for panic bars. They make ones that are for gym doors, things like that. They're make tons of different models, which is awesome, and they're quickly employed. It just requires the use of metal for magnets. So if you have door frames that don't have those little metal pieces, that could be an issue. I don't really necessarily see that being a huge issue, but it can be. And then these ones are also within reach of children, so they can constantly mess with these throughout the day because they're at door level. It's not really a huge deal. Sometimes you do want them to be able to use them, but I can see with that one rowdy kid this getting to be a little bit of an issue, but you can always deal with that on their own. As you see right here, there is basically a cable. It kind of goes up and out of the picture and then back down, and it connects to the door frame right here. So when you pull it off or you slide it out, it will stay connected to the door at all times, so it stays with the door. It's not like you're going to have to worry about losing this piece of equipment. Let's actually look and see how this one works. I'm going to go to the next screen. Okay, so as you can see, the door is locked from the outside. You can open and close the door. All you have to do is just pull that latch, and now the door is locked. Open and close. I'll let you guys watch it a couple times so you can kind of see what it's like. This keeping the door ajar is kind of what most companies are going for nowadays. I'm just going to keep the door locked at all times, but in order to allow free access to and from the classroom throughout the entire day, we just want to keep it ajar while everybody's in here. And that's mostly what these companies are going for nowadays. This YouTube video down at the bottom is a promotional video by this actual company. They show you some of their other lockdown devices that they have, and they go really in depth about how these can help your school. Moving on to the next one, we're going to talk about the LockAide. So I'm not being biased or anything, but these next two ones may or may not be my favorite ones out of all of them. This one probably being my favorite. I didn't say that. You didn't hear that. So this one, the reason that I like this one so much is because it's really easy to operate. There's a one-time installation. It's easily integrated into your everyday classroom operation. It can be used on every door type, and it meshes well with the door. It's not a huge piece of equipment that sticks out of the door all day. Again, this particular model is one that keeps the door locked from the outside all day, and it keeps the door ajar during operating hours. The only con that I have with this particular device is that it is within reach of children, and so they can mess with it. Although it is a strictly metal piece, so chances of them messing with it to the point where it's inoperable is not very likely. They have people who can come out and help you install them, but the cool things about these is they're so simple. They come with tons of directions. They have YouTube videos on how to do it. To install it yourself, most either like maintenance workers or quite frankly even anybody who knows how to work a screwdriver can put these on the doors. There's also an identification piece on the outside. I didn't get to cover it in this particular webinar, but on the outside, basically when you lock the door, it will tell, from the outside, it can tell police officers that you have locked the door. You should go online to their website, which is right here, the LockAide.com, and you can take a look at all the videos that they have and things like that. I just particularly really like this model because it's really easily employed and it's easily integrated into your everyday classroom operation. So this is how it works. This is basically what it does. So quickly employed from the inside. You'll hear your door click, and that lets you know that it's actually locked. Quick and simple, just like that, although it allows the door to freely open and close throughout the entire day. This YouTube video down here I like it. It tells you information about this device, but I'm just warning you, they give you lots of statistics about school intruders and things like that. You have to skip through a lot of those kinds of things to actually get to the goods about what this device is and how it works. So I'd recommend just going to their website and looking at the pictures and all that stuff. Okay, and the last but not least, this is another one of my favorite ones. I didn't say that. You didn't hear that. I shouldn't have said that. No, I'm kidding. But I really like this one. This one's really, really easily employed in the classroom. It's really easy to use all day long. Again, same thing. The door remains locked from the outside. The model keeps the door ajar during operating hours so you can freely open and close the door. This one's easy to operate. It's a one-time installation. You can use it on any door type. And just like that LockAide device, this one is easily integrated into everyday classroom operation. So some of these devices that keep the door ajar, you'll forget to use them or things like that. This one's right next to the door handle. That's what I like about these last two. It's kind of like a catch-22. They're right next to the door handle, which is awesome because you never forget to use them, but sometimes your students can mess with them. The lucky thing about that is these last two devices are made out of fairly good materials that shouldn't easily be broken. The only thing that really is not great about the InSlide lockdown is it obviously sticks out of the door. So as you can see, it sticks right next to the door handle. It sticks out. You can open the door and get yourself with it, hit yourself in the hip or something like that. And this one has a little bit more simple materials. You'll see in the next slide, it may be cause for constant replacement with these. I don't really see that being an issue. I've played with them. They're pretty heavy for the size of it and what it is. They're pretty heavy, but it can potentially, if people are constantly messing with it and not using it for its intended purpose, it can potentially wear down. These guys are really awesome. They're a family company. They make everything here in the USA. They're super into veterans and things like that. They're really cool people. You can contact them here at the InSlide Lockdown. I believe his name is Kevin. He's the owner of the company. Really nice guy. You can reach out to them directly and they will give you all the information that you need about this particular device. This is how the device itself actually works. See, it's very easily employed throughout the day. You keep the door locked from the outside. Turn your door handle and push the device into place, and that keeps the door ajar. Now you can swing the door open and closed all day long. There's plenty of YouTube videos on this one. This InSlide lockdown actually blew up here, so a lot of people use this one. There's tons of videos on it. There's lots of promotional videos. What I was mentioning about the it being messed with and it kind of being not used for its intended purpose, if you see right here, it's kind of sitting slanted. I can potentially see people messing with that and pulling it out of socket if it's not being used properly. See, it sits cockeyed right there. We are going to do, these are the 6 devices that I had covered for you guys today. There's, again, like I said, plenty of lockdown devices out there. The reason that I chose these 6 particular ones to go for is because, one, they're less invasive in your classroom environment. There's some where you drill an eyelet into the wall and you connect a carabiner to it and then you loop it around your door handle and that keeps it closed, which is really awesome. It does the same thing that a lot of these do, but it's a huge device that sits in the classroom every day and it's almost daunting to your students. So these ones are less invasive. They're less scary for your students to be looking at and seeing. It can be easily integrated into your everyday routines with practice. I also wanted to go for ones that were cost effective because you don't want to be spending lots and lots and lots of money. Not that you don't want to. I mean, some schools do want to, but some schools just don't have the budget to do that, so these are within a lot of people's budgets. You can also install most of these pretty easily. So the InSlide And then we have, we have the InSlide and the LockAide and the Safe Latch, the School Safe, the LockBlok. All of those ones you can install yourself. NightGuard you can install yourself as well. You just need some extra tools for that, or they can come out and help you. So they're pretty easily put into your school. And the main thing is that these are all safe, and they all help you guys, and they all help your students stay safe, and they keep you inside the classroom. When you hear a lockdown called, you don't have to peek your head out the door to see what's going on. You can just close the door, lock it, and stay safe from the inside without that worry of somebody coming in or messing with my keys to try and lock the door, or the door didn't lock properly because whatever number of reasons that could happen. Excuse me, I'm just going to go back this way. We're going to do a quick poll question right now. You'll see it pop up on your screen in just a second. Let me get there. Okay, after today, how many of you guys actually plan to look at potentially investing in some lockdown devices for your school or your organization or your home? We'll see it pop up in just a second. Just bear with us. There you go. Sorry about that. It looks like the question got cut off, but after today, how many of you plan to look at investing in some lockdown devices at your school, organization, or home? All right, that's awesome. So it actually looks like about 80% of you guys that joined us today found some benefit to what we were talking about, and I really, really love that. I'm really excited because lockdown devices are really beneficial in the school. If you guys have any extra questions about it, you guys can always reach out to us and talk to us about them. Today, we covered what a lockdown is. We talked about what a lockdown device is because most of you guys haven't heard of it. We also saw about 6 different types of lockdown devices. I just want to quickly cover with you guys because this wasn't in the program, but it's something that I just want to kind of ad-lib because it just popped into my head right now. I realized that when I introduced these to a lot of my schools and to a lot of my staff and faculty members, a lot of them were worried about, well, how are we going to do this every day, and how are we going to employ these in our classrooms? How are we going to make this a natural part of our everyday routines? You can just explain to them the benefits that each of these have. You can show them this webinar that gives them the benefits of what they are. You can even show them how easy it is to use them and practice with them and show them. A lot of people, when they come at you with questions that involve concerns such as, well, it's not going to be easy to do this, and it's not going to be this to do that, and it's what have you, chances are it's just anxiety. This is a new piece of a device. It's something that we've never had to use before. Lockdowns are really scary. They're a fairly new concept for us, especially within the last 5 years or so. They're a fairly new concept for us, so a lot of people kind of shut out whatever it is that's causing that anxiety, so they don't even want to deal with these pieces of equipment. If you pick one that's right for your school, if you pick one that is fairly easy to use, chances are if you sit them down, you talk with them, it will decrease the anxiety that they have and make them more receptive to integrating something like this into your everyday classroom. So I'm really happy that you guys all joined us. I'm going to open this up. We'll have a little bit of an open forum. I want to see who here has questions for us. On the right-hand side of your screen, there's a box you can ask questions, and I'll open it up for a couple of minutes, and then we can wrap it up for the day.
And Katelyn, this is Chris, and I'll jump in real quick just to share with you all that as we've evaluated these 6 different lockdown devices and talked about what lockdowns are and what they do, one of the challenges that goes above and beyond the device that we actually are using is those classroom windows. And our classroom windows are a necessary part of the classroom, and one of the things that we talk about anytime we evaluate a lockdown device is the fact that we have two different sort of opposing goals when it comes to lockdown. Our first goal is obviously to, and within the lockdown realm, our goal anyway, is to lock down, to ensure that nobody can get into our classroom, nothing can get into our classroom, and that we are truly safe wherever it is that we've locked down. At the same time, and really this sort of incredibly opposing goal, is that classrooms are these open and incredibly accessible environments for students, for staff, for faculty, for anybody that's on a school campus. And of course, the core issue of just whether or not your doors can lock is part of that opposition, or part of those two sort of opposing thoughts. But above and beyond that, a lot of classrooms, especially in the Northeast, although this is really true nationwide, have these sort of what we call old school windows that are in the doors so that you can see into the classroom. And that goes back to the same theory. We want classrooms to be able to be accessible. We want people to be able to see in. And frankly, we want to know exactly what it is that's going on inside those classrooms. And so when we deal with lockdown devices, and I'll circle back to the windows in just a second, our first priority is to ensure that we find a device that works for our school, works for our environment, that doesn't scare our staff or our faculty. Our second priority is probably that we have a device that students can't or won't tinker with or mess with a whole lot. And then our third priority, and for some of us this is ranked even higher, is ensuring that those devices are truly only used during lockdown drills and real lockdowns. Because obviously if we have our classrooms locked on a day-to-day basis, we're, number one, not allowing students in and out of the classroom freely, which is just a sort of social challenge. But then above and beyond that, we're not necessarily adhering to code. And different states have different rules about this, but for the most part, classrooms are required by law to be left open and unlocked and accessible throughout the course of the day. And of course, again, that goes back to being able to know what's going on in classrooms, being able to see what's going on in classrooms, and ensuring that everything that's going on is safe and is positive. Well, the same thing's true for those windows. And so if you're a school that has those windows in your doors or has a lot of different windows in your classrooms, you'll get these devices, you'll get them installed, and that part of the puzzle is then complete. The next part of the puzzle, or the next piece to evaluate, is then how to limit visibility into the classroom, because of course making sure that nobody can access your classroom is one goal, but then making sure that nobody wants to access your classroom or nobody knows who's in your classroom and therefore is perhaps less likely to try to access it is that second goal. And I've seen a number of different solutions for this. The least expensive and probably favorite option that I've seen is a magnet strip. And of course this only works if your classroom windows have the magnet that goes around them or have a piece of metal that goes around them. And you can purchase these magnets for probably about $4 a square foot, and you can cut them yourselves. You can have your safety committee work on them. You may even be able to engage a group of parent volunteers to help cut them out and set them up for each window. And that's low cost and it's very customizable. So depending on the size of your windows, it may or may not be easy to find blinds and drapes and things like that. And frankly, those blinds that cover the classroom windows tend to be very, very expensive because they're so long and narrow, and they just they're not cost-effective blinds. So I certainly recommend that, now that you've learned what these tools are that you can use to limit access into the classroom, that then you take it a step further, and I'll challenge each of you to do that and to evaluate, all right, well, now that we've restricted our movement and we've maintained our security and our quote-unquote perimeter is the term that they use for it in that sort of security world, well, then how can we also limit the desire for people to get in? And what we know about people that are on campuses, and again, this is specific to a human-based lockdown as opposed to an environment-based lockdown or an animal-based lockdown. But in a human-based lockdown, we know that we're more secure if, number one, we have the ability to prevent people from getting in, and then number two, we have the ability to restrict what they can see, and that actually reduces their desire to try and get in. People tend to be social creatures. We're social animals, and so we go where we can see people, and that's true in escalated situations and when people are angry or emotionally charged. And so if we can do our best to limit or eliminate the person's ability to see into our classroom, our office, our conference rooms, whatever those places are, we have an opportunity to really restrict their desire to try and force their way into a classroom. And so there are really two parts to that puzzle. And again, as Katelyn just said, we definitely are excited, and I'm seeing a couple of great questions come in, so we'll go ahead and cover those here in just a moment. But all in all, I'll challenge each and every one of you to, if you looked at any of these devices and went, hey, this may make sense for my school, either give us a call or give the companies directly a call and see if you can get some samples and see if you can try to install them, see what teachers think, see what your school's leadership thinks, and see if they feel like they're a long-term solution. The last thing that we want to do in any school environment is install something for 3 months, say, hey, everybody has to use these, especially when it's a safety-related item, and then in 3 months go, wait a second, there's a better tool out there, let's see if we can get that, and then 3 months later do the same. We want to try and do this once. We want to make sure that we do well and that we're successful on the first try, and that we can really get all of the skills and habits that go along with each of these devices instilled in our entire community from the get-go. And so with that, I'll take a couple of questions, and actually I'll read these to you, Katelyn. It looks like the first one is from Jerry, and the question, I just lost Jerry's question. There it is. The question is, if I have one of these devices on my campus, is it right to assume that I should use the same device on all of my doors? And so Katelyn, I'll let you take a stab at that question.
So not necessarily. It really depends on the door itself. So I've noticed with especially a lot of our schools nowadays, we don't really have the money to kind of go through and do renovations for the entire school. So I've kind of realized that some of the doors are brand new, some of the doors are really old school, some of them have the panic bars. So not necessarily. You may have one uniform one, i.e. maybe you have the InSlide or the LockAide for many of your classroom doors. But say for your gym or things like that, you may want to look into something more like the Safe Latch, because they actually make devices that are specifically for those types of doors, whereas the InSlide doesn't. So not necessarily. I wouldn't say so, and I wouldn't limit yourself to that either. These companies are really, really receptive to helping you out, sending you samples, answering any questions. So it doesn't hurt just to reach out to them and kind of see what works for your school best.
Excellent. Thank you. And it looks like the next question came in from Lauren, and Lauren's question was, in order to actually secure the classrooms, would it make more sense to keep our doors locked every day and just open them up as students arrive? And I'll answer this one for you, Lauren, and I'll say that depending on the state that you're in, and that's an important sort of component to this answer, but in general, it's actually against code compliance for us to leave classroom doors locked on a day-to-day basis. Now that's different for office doors, so any of your administrators' offices or your staff and faculty workrooms or places like that, those can be locked, and that's okay. But your classroom doors, for the most part, really excluding just a couple of states, do need to stay open and accessible throughout the day. And again, that really goes back to ensuring that we know what's going on in a classroom, ensuring that we know who's doing what, and that we're covering our bases from a compliance perspective. So great question. And then it looks like one just came in from Brian. And oh, great question, Brian. So Brian asked, do you actually practice the evacuation drill for the lockdowns? And I'll answer this one. Brian, in general, we do practice evacuation as part of the lockdown. And the reason for that is that no matter what type of drill you're conducting, we like to keep the overall process as streamlined and as consistent as possible. Because in doing so, we actually are able to achieve full practice for any drill with a few variations for that specific type of drill. So put differently, if we do, and I'll use California as an example, fire, earthquake, and lockdown drills, and we alternate through those throughout the year. In our fire drill, our whole purpose, our whole job is just to get out. Well, then in our earthquake drill, we drop, cover, and hold, and yes, as far as earthquakes are concerned, that does certainly practice for that component, but it's pretty cool that then we can get out, and now we're practicing for a fire too. And finally, for the lockdown, we're doing the same thing. We're doing this initial communication and movement restriction but we're following that up with lockdown, and now we're practicing and reinforcing the skills that we've learned in fire and earthquake. And the other pretty neat thing about that is that in most states, elementary schools are required to conduct a monthly egress drill. Middle schools and high schools are expected and required to conduct anywhere from 2 to 4 drills per year, in some states even more. But those are considered egress drills, and for some schools, the way that they've interpreted that and done these over the years is that they've done a fire drill and an earthquake drill and a lockdown drill in each month, or they've done a fire drill and a bad weather drill and a tornado drill, all in each month. And although fires are certainly the one thing that fires and lockdowns really are the two components that follow us everywhere we go, that third drill or fourth drill in some cases can be dependent on our specific region. And so what ends up happening is we do these 3 or 4, sometimes even 5 drills per month, and there's so much pressure to try and make them fast and efficient and get everybody back into class that the drills aren't as successful or productive as they could be. So what we try to do is conduct a single or maybe a second drill on a monthly basis and allow them to be consistent, allow them to be really good, productive, and efficient drills, but not put so much pressure by doing more drills than we have to on the time component, and stay compliant by having that evacuation happen after each drill. So to answer your question, Brian, in general, yes, we do practice the evacuation drill after most lockdowns. And I'll also sort of piggyback on that I get the question a lot from staff and from faculty, especially without that sort of pretext. And the question is, well, why do we evacuate after a lockdown? Isn't it not safe? Isn't that the reason that we lock down? And I like to share with everybody that, yeah, we lock down because the area isn't safe. And so our lockdown portion, our movement restriction portion, all of that is about the area not being safe for us. But the second component of this is that the police have come and cleared, or the fire department has come and cleared, or somebody else has come and cleared our area and said, hey, now it's safe. And so at that point, evacuating is it allows us to take attendance in a really effective way. The second is that it allows us to conduct the psychological first aid that oftentimes is necessary after a lockdown. And this is whether it's a human-created lockdown or another type of lockdown. So put differently, if I'm a single school administrator or a single school counselor, it could take me hours to go from classroom to classroom to figure out who, in terms of students, and who, in terms of staff and faculty, I need to spend time with later today to try and make comfortable and help them understand what happened and things like that. Whereas if I can evacuate everybody down to a field or into a gym or into an amphitheater, I can look at that group and say, these 10 or 15 people over here, they need some help, and so I need to siphon them off of the rest of the group. And then these 10 people that are over here, they obviously saw something that was challenging for them, so we need to figure out how to treat and how to support them. And in doing so, I can take attendance. I can create some next steps. And then from a community perspective, probably my favorite part about that evacuation and assembly is my head of school or my principal or whoever it is for you can then address the entire group. And this is particularly meaningful for older students and for staff and faculty, and say, today this is what happened, and tomorrow this is how we're going to keep you safe, and this is how we're going to continue to keep you safe. And so it allows them to really have this connected and very, in some cases, emotional delivery that helps everybody come tomorrow. And that's the goal. And of course, and I know I'll get this question if I don't share this now, in some decision for everyone is actually not to come back to school tomorrow, and that's certainly okay. But again, it allows that head of school, that principal, or whoever it is that's going to be leading that discussion to say, here's what we're going to do next. So great.
So just, Brian, I see your, I'm sorry, Chris. Brian, I see your follow-up here as well. It says, we have preschoolers. The evacuation shelter in place has to cross a street according to our law enforcement. I just want to address this real quick for you before we wrap up, because I know exactly what you're talking about. I have a school that is dead smack right in the middle of industrial downtown Oakland. So we have this exact issue. They have very young students from pre-K all the way up until 8 years old, and they actually have to cross Grand Avenue. I don't know if you guys know where that is, but it's a huge street about 6 lanes across right in the middle of downtown Oakland to get to where their egress point is. Now, I have a safety committee at this school. We've set it up. I went out there. We talked about it. They had the same kind of concerns. I don't want to necessarily take our preschoolers across the street if it's not absolutely necessary, but I kind of steered them in the direction of you got to at least do it one time, because in the event of an emergency, you don't want it to be the first time that you're actually trying something. So yes, it takes a lot of planning. No, you're not going to run and just go do an egress drill across a huge 6-lane road, kind of ad lib, just do it whenever. It does take a lot of planning. I would recommend sitting down and actually we pulled out maps of the downtown area. We were drawing on the maps and kind of figuring out our way around and what would make most sense for their school. And we actually figured out a way to get everybody across the street in a quick, efficient manner, and in a way that is that will help people in the event of an emergency. So they're not freaked out. They know what they're doing. They know what they've done before. It's almost a repetitious kind of thing. So I hope that helps. I know it's kind of a scary thing because you're like, we have to cross a huge street, but it can be done, and I absolutely recommend you at least do it at least one time so that they have done it before and it's not a completely new concept right in the middle of something that's already really scary for them. That can create havoc, it can create chaos and just a bigger situation for yourself. Okay, guys. We are going to wrap it up. It's just about 11 o'clock here. So let me get back to here. Now, normally I don't do this, but today, since this is such a project that is close to myself, sorry, let's switch over to the next slide. Oops. Melinda, if you could help me out here. There we go. Okay. Normally I don't do this, but I'm going to extend an invitation to all of you guys today. My email is on the screen right here. It's KatelynR@JoffeEmergencyServices.com. You guys can absolutely send me emails about lockdown devices. I've done so much research on this, and I have a lot of knowledge on these devices. I can get you contact information if you are unable to find it, and I can get you guys a copy of these types of things if you need it. Also, if you have any questions about anything in general, you can always email them to schools@JoffeEmergencyServices.com. We can answer questions through there about anything that you may have a question about. Let's move on to the next one. Okay. We'll get you guys over to the next slide, and again, thank you for all of you guys continuing to be a part of our community, whether this is your first time here today or if you guys have been following us throughout the entire series. We want to thank you so much. It's a complimentary gift for you guys today for attending our webinar. We place this on all of them. It's a school safety assessment. Please feel free, reach out to us. This is like a $500-ish value, so it's for you guys today for being with us. In just a second, in the chat window, you're going to see another link pop up. It's for a survey. We like to do these surveys, and we really, really would enjoy if you guys actually filled them out for us, because we want to make these webinars better for you guys. We want to make these webinars more tailored to our audiences, so your feedback is really, really important to us, and you guys are going to get it in the chat section in just a second. So if you guys can please fill that out if you have time, please feel free. And last but not least, sorry guys, we're having some technical difficulties. I just want to get to this last slide for you guys. I just would like to extend a huge, ginormous thank you to everyone who is continuing to be following us, and to our newest folks. Thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you guys again, and please keep in touch. You guys can always contact us at www.joffeemergencyservices.com and or reach out to any of the emails that were given to you guys today. You guys can follow up with this webinar. You can follow us on YouTube as well and get all of the webinars in the series. If you joined today, this is your first one, and you're hearing about all the previous ones. If you want to find those, just go to YouTube and type in Joffe Emergency Services, and our webinars will pop up there for you guys. Thank you so much, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.